At 9:17 p.m., she stepped outside. No struggle, no scream, no goodbyes, just one step into the night, and then nothing. This street had seen thousands of nights like this before. Quiet, predictable, safe. Porch lights glowing, windows shut, doors locked. A place where people believe bad things happen somewhere else. But that belief ended here. Moments earlier, her phone was still warm in her hand. A final message sent. A routine she'd followed countless times before. If you walk past this spot today, you'd never know what happened. No stain on the pavement, no broken glass, no sign that a life vanished into thin air. Yet in the hours that followed, panic spread like wildfire. Sirens cut through the silence. Neighbors gathered in doorways. Police lights painted the houses red and blue. And still, there was no trace of her. No witnesses who agreed. No cameras that showed enough. No answers that made sense. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into years. What began as a missing person report became something darker. Something that refused to let go. Rumors filled the gaps where facts should have been. Secrets surfaced. Theories clashed. And every time someone thought they were close, the truth slipped away again. Even now, long after the headlines faded, people here lower their voices when her name comes up. Parents walk their children home faster. Doors lock earlier. Streets feel quieter than they should. Because somewhere between 9:17 p.m. and the moments that followed, a line was crossed. And some say, the city never slept the same again. By day, this city feels ordinary, familiar. Tree-lined streets, morning commuters, cafes opening their doors like they always have. This was the kind of place people moved to, not away from. For years, it carried a reputation for being safe. Violent crime rates sat well below the national average. Break-ins were rare. Missing person cases almost unheard of. Parents let their children walk to school. Night joggers felt comfortable wearing headphones. Doors were sometimes left unlocked. Safety here wasn't just a statistic, it was a shared belief. Ask anyone who lived here back then, and they'll tell you the same thing. It was quiet. Nothing ever happened here. We knew our neighbors. Life followed routines. Weekends meant local games and grocery runs. Evenings ended early. The streets emptied out by nightfall. Not out of fear, but habit. And that's what made what happened next so hard to accept. Because when the disappearance occurred, there was no obvious danger, no crime wave, no warnings from police, no reason to believe the city was hiding something darker beneath its calm surface. Or so it seemed. Looking back now, investigators would later admit something unsettling. The signs weren't dramatic. They weren't loud. They didn't look like warnings at all. A report that didn't go anywhere. A camera that wasn't working that night. A strange detail no one questioned because it didn't feel important. At the time, no one connected the dots, because no one was looking for them. This city believed it was immune, protected by its quiet streets and familiar faces. And when people believe nothing bad can happen, they stop noticing the things that matter most. No one noticed the warning signs. Before she became a headline, before she became a case number, she was a person with a life that was still unfolding. She grew up surrounded by family, the kind of home where birthdays were celebrated loudly and small achievements mattered. Those close to her describe her as dependable, someone who showed up when she said she would, someone people leaned on without thinking twice. She had plans, not vague ideas but real goals, things she talked about often, places she wanted to go, a future she was actively working toward. She saved money, she kept schedules, she talked about next month and next year, not like someone preparing to vanish. Her routines were simple and consistent. Morning coffee the same way every day. A familiar route home. Messages sent at predictable times. Friends could tell what kind of mood she was in just by how fast she replied. And that's why the last conversations stand out so sharply. Nothing sounded wrong, no fear, no panic, no goodbye hidden between the lines. Just ordinary words, ordinary plans. A casual promise to talk later. One friend would later say, "If I'd heard even a hint of something off, I would have known." But there was nothing. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't secretive. She didn't disappear from social circles or cut ties with people. She stayed in touch. She checked in. She cared deeply about the people around her. Most importantly, she didn't run from her life. She loved her family too much. Her goals meant too much. Her routines were too deeply rooted. Investigators would later look closely at her habits, her finances, her digital footprint, searching for signs of planning, distress, or escape. They found none. And for those who knew her best, that fact alone ruled out one theory completely. She didn't choose to disappear. Whatever happened to her that night wasn't part of a plan. It was an interruption. The final day began like any other. No alarms, no warnings. Nothing to suggest it would end differently. 8:12 a.m. She left home on schedule. A routine so familiar it barely registered. Phone charge, wallet with her, keys in hand, late morning. She went about her day as planned. Messages sent, tasks completed. Small, forgettable moments until they became the last ones anyone could confirm. 2:47 p.m. A text message appears on her phone records. Casual, unremarkable. The kind of message you send without thinking. Later, investigators would read it over and over, searching for meaning that wasn't there. 6:03 p.m. She's seen on a security camera entering a familiar location. The footage is grainy, slightly out of focus, but it's her. Same clothes, same posture. No one appears to be following her. This would become one of the last confirmed images of her alive. 7:41 p.m. Another phone ping. Her device connects to a nearby cell tower, right where it should be. Normal movement, normal signal strength. Nothing unusual. 8:58 p.m. She sends one final message. Short, ordinary. No hint that it would be the last time anyone would hear from her. Then comes the moment that changes everything. 9:17 p.m. She's captured again, this time briefly. A partial camera angle, just enough to confirm direction, not enough to show detail. She steps outside. No one walks beside her. No vehicle pulls up. No visible threat. And then she exits the frame. After that, there is nothing. No more messages, no more pings, no outgoing calls, no incoming replies. Her phone goes silent. When investigators later reconstructed this timeline, one detail haunted them most. Between 9:17 p.m. and the moment her phone stopped responding, there is a gap, a window of time so small it almost feels impossible. And yet within that window, she vanished completely. The place where she vanished isn't hidden. It isn't remote. It's a stretch of road people pass every day without thinking twice. A sidewalk bordered by parked cars, a streetlight overhead, homes close enough that someone should have seen something. That's what makes this moment so disturbing. That night, the weather was unremarkable. No storm, no heavy rain to wash away evidence. Just cool air and a light breeze. Perfect conditions for sound to travel. If there had been a scream, someone would have heard it, but there wasn't. Witness statements would later complicate everything. One neighbor reported hearing footsteps around the time she disappeared. Another claimed they saw a dark figure standing near a car, but couldn't describe a face, height, or direction of travel. A third insisted they heard a vehicle door close, though no one else confirmed it. The accounts didn't line up. No single story could be trusted on its own. Police searched the immediate area and found something small, but unsettling. An object she always carried. Not damaged, not broken, just left behind. It sat exactly where she shouldn't have needed to drop it. Nearby, there were no signs of a struggle, no disturbed ground, no dragged marks, no blood. If something happened here, it happened fast and quietly. Too fast, too clean. And then there's the detail locals still talk about in hushed voices, the streetlight. Multiple witnesses would later say it flickered that night. Just briefly, long enough to cast moving shadows across the pavement, long enough for a moment to be missed. Investigators could never confirm whether the light actually malfunctioned or whether fear filled in the blanks afterward. But for the people who live there, it doesn't matter, because every time that light flickers now, they remember the same thing. A person was there, and then, suddenly, they weren't. The first call came just minutes after she failed to return home. Her family's panic was immediate. They searched the neighborhood, calling her name, checking every familiar corner. Friends joined, their voices trembling with disbelief. By 9:45 p.m., the police were notified. Officers arrived quickly, canvassing the street, knocking on doors, and interviewing anyone who might have seen something. Anything. Within the hour, the search expanded. Search dogs traced the area, alerting to scents that led nowhere. Volunteers lined the streets, flashlights sweeping the sidewalks and alleys. Helicopters circled above, their spotlights cutting through the darkness like piercing eyes. The city was awake now. Normally quiet neighborhoods buzzed with urgency. Cars slowed, pedestrians stopped. Every familiar street seemed suspicious. The local news picked up the story within hours. Headlines flashed across TVs, radios, and social media feeds. Teen missing, city in shock. Family pleads for help. Authorities searched throughout the night. As coverage grew, so did panic. Rumors spread faster than facts. People who had never met her felt fear creeping into their own lives. The city that had prided itself on safety now seemed fragile, vulnerable, and alive with uncertainty. And still, despite every effort, the first night ended the same way it began, without answers. In the hours and days that followed, investigators began piecing together the fragments left behind. A scarf, a phone charger, a small notebook. Nothing overtly alarming until examined closely. Each item seemed ordinary, yet out of place. Neighbors later reported seeing someone loitering near her street earlier that evening. Someone who didn't belong. Yet those early tips weren't followed up immediately. They were filed, forgotten, buried in paperwork. Even more troubling were the small mistakes made in the first critical hours. CCTV footage from nearby businesses was overlooked. A patrol route skipped a key street. Witness statements were taken but not cross-checked. A few minor leads, calls from unknown numbers, brief sightings, were dismissed because they didn't fit the profile. Every overlooked detail widened the gap between what actually happened and what the investigators thought happened. This is where things began to unravel, because in every disappearance, there's a moment when control slips away, when small errors, missed warnings, and misinterpreted clues set the stage for decades of uncertainty. And for her, that moment came in the first frantic hours of the search. As the investigation unfolded, the focus shifted to those who might have known her or crossed her path that night. Friends and family were questioned extensively. Close relationships were examined for conflicts, secrets, or motives, but nothing concrete emerged. Everyone described her as kind, reliable, and grounded. There were disagreements, as in any life, but nothing that pointed toward harm. Then there were the strangers, people seen near the area at the time, walking, driving, or loitering. Witness accounts were inconsistent. Some described a tall figure, others said the person seemed short. Clothing colors didn't match. Directions of travel conflicted. Police conducted hundreds of interviews, piecing together timelines, cross-referencing stories. Alibis didn't always line up perfectly, but nothing could be definitively proven. Every lead created more questions than answers. Why weren't arrests made? Because in this case, suspicion was not enough. Evidence was circumstantial. No fingerprints, no confirmed physical interaction, no direct witness to a crime. The law required proof that simply did not exist. Months passed, leads went cold, and the city learned an unsettling truth. Sometimes the people closest to you, or the strangers passing silently by, remain mysteries forever. When answers don't come, theories take their place, and in this city, they never stopped. The first theory was the simplest and the most painful for her family, that she left on her own. Some believed she planned a voluntary disappearance, a fresh start, a secret life no one knew about. Investigators examined her finances, online activity, and personal relationships searching for proof. They found no withdrawals, no packed bags, no digital trail. To those who knew her, this theory never made sense. You don't abandon a life you were building without leaving something behind. Then came the theory that frightened people the most: abduction. The idea that she was taken in plain sight, on a familiar street, under working streetlights, changed how people saw their own neighborhoods. Theories ranged from a crime of opportunity to someone who had been watching her for weeks. But again, there was no physical evidence. No vehicle captured clearly. No witness who saw the moment it happened. Just a gap in time where a person vanished. Another theory suggested something accidental. A fall, a medical emergency, an argument that spiraled out of control, followed by a desperate cover-up. Supporters of this theory point to the lack of struggle, the silence, the absence of chaos. But it raises one terrifying question. If it was an accident, how does someone erase every trace? Then there are the theories rarely spoken aloud, whispered ones, connections to people no one could fully identify. Rumors of organized crime passing through the area. The idea that she saw something she shouldn't have, or crossed paths with the wrong person at the wrong moment. Police have never confirmed any such link, but the whispers persist, because when a case remains unsolved for this long, the truth doesn't disappear. It fragments, and every fragment becomes a theory that refuses to die. Once the story hit the headlines, it spread like wildfire. News outlets ran nonstop coverage. Social media exploded with updates, theories, and questions. Every tiny clue or misinterpreted detail became a headline. Local stories went national, national stories went global. Internet detectives scoured every angle. They analyzed photos, maps, timestamps. They mapped out movements, questioned inconsistencies, and debated theories for hours on end. Every comment thread became a mini investigation. False sightings began appearing across states, even overseas. People claimed to have seen her in cafes, airports, or unfamiliar towns. Each report sparked hope and heartbreak when proven false. Hoaxes didn't stop either. Messages, fake social media profiles, and prank calls swarmed the family. Every lead that could have been helpful became noise. For her family, the attention was relentless. Sleep became impossible. Every phone call, every ping of a notification carried the weight of dread. Questions from reporters, strangers, and online sleuths piled on top of grief and uncertainty. The emotional exhaustion was immense. Every day brought new rumors, new speculation, new heartbreak, and still, no answers. Months passed, years passed. Eventually, the case was labeled cold. Evidence that might have held answers was stored in boxes, locked away in evidence rooms. Photos, CCTV clips, phone records, personal belongings, all cataloged, preserved, and untouched. Yet some detectives never stopped looking. They revisited old files, compared notes, and stayed in contact with the family. Their persistence kept hope alive, even when the trail had gone silent. Modern technology brought new possibilities. DNA testing that didn't exist at the time. Digital forensics that could track devices and messages in ways unimaginable a decade ago. Artificial intelligence capable of cross-referencing millions of records in seconds. For the first time, some experts believe the case might still be solvable. But the question remains, what could still solve this case? A forgotten clue? A witness who finally speaks? Or technology uncovering something long buried? The answer is out there, somewhere, waiting. Years have passed, but the city has not forgotten. Memorials mark the streets she once walked. Murals painted with her face remind passers-by of a life interrupted. Missing posters still cling to lampposts, grocery store windows, and telephone poles. Silent reminders that she never returned. Every year, vigils are held. Candles flicker in the night. Voices rise in hope and memory. Strangers and friends alike gather to remember, to demand answers, and to ensure she is not erased from the city's heart. Locals speak quietly of fear that never left. Parents escort children home earlier. Neighbors watch streets with vigilance they didn't have before. Even familiar places now carry a weight of caution. One disappearance changed the city forever. Life continues, but the rhythm has shifted. The ordinary routines, the sense of safety, the comfort of normalcy, they were all altered that night. The city learned a harsh truth. Safety is fragile, and once it's broken, it never feels the same again. We return, one last time, to 9:17 p.m. The moment she stepped outside, the moment the ordinary became unthinkable. No struggle, no warning, just a life erased from the familiar streets she had walked countless times before. Years of investigation, theories, and speculation have followed. Witnesses questioned, clues analyzed, technology advanced. And yet, the answers remain elusive. Her absence is felt in empty corners, in unanswered calls, in the memories of those who loved her. A reminder that loss can linger longer than the person themselves. Some mysteries fade with time. This one refuses to let go.